Hi there, and welcome to Turning Points. If you've picked up a newspaper on the east coast of Australia in the last couple of decades, there's every chance you've seen Richard Campion's work. After a difficult childhood, growing up in an orphanage in northern New South Wales, Tommy, as he's known, landed a job as a cadet photographer at the Northern Star in Lismore. Over the years, he worked for a variety of newspapers, including the Courier Mail and the Australian. A career filled with the normal ups and downs, as well as a fair share of girls in bikinis, celebrities and Australians being Australians, always punctuated by the classic Tommy Campion smile. Ultimately, his career came to an untimely end, sending him on a difficult journey back into his childhood, a childhood that we'll talk about more a little later in the show. Tommy, welcome.
How you going, Shaun? You're looking well?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. What makes a good news photographer? We're going to talk about all aspects of your career, but what in your mind makes a good news photographer?
Well, when I first started, I didn't have a clue. I actually didn't know how to take a photo when I started.
And when did you start?
But I started when I was 17, 18.
So 60s?
Yeah, in the 60s,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I just saw an ad in the paper and I went up and I applied for it.
Back in the old days when there was job ads in the paper.
Yes.
So how was the learning process of learning how to become a good photographer? Was it all out there on your own? You just try and work it out on yourself? Did you have mentors?
You do an apprenticeship,
Yep.
but gradually it's up to you.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. But I reckon to be a good photographer, you've got to have passion. You've got to listen and you've got to look.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to have that good eye to be able to pick something up, to pick up the unusual that no one else can see.
See things as they're about to happen, sort of.
Yeah,
thing.
we see things.
Yeah.
We can see things. I can see photographs in here now that you probably would not see. But that's what it is. And that never leaves you. Once you have that, it never leaves you. You can walk down the street and see 10 photographs. But you've got to have the passion to be able to do that too.
Yeah.
And all the photographers I know, hundreds of them, have got passion. So much passion, and that's what it's all about.
There's all sorts of aspects of photography that I want to speak to you about. In this digital age, apart from the obvious technical aspect, has the art of taking a good news photograph changed with the advent of technology, digital cameras?
No way at all.
Completely the same?
Completely the same. You're still lining up to do your photographs. You're still making sure your light's okay, and backlit, side lit. It's just the same, but with the digital, of course, you can have the pictures out in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yep.
You can send them overseas in a few minutes. Where, with the film, we used to have to work in the darkroom. Might take half an hour to an hour to get out one photograph.
Certainly I've seen photographers working at sporting events, for example, where they're down on the sideline, then at halftime they're up in the booth, straight onto the laptop, quickly editing the photos, and like you say, they're already sent off to news and photo agencies around the world.
Isn't that marvellous?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Isn't that brilliant? I wish it was like that when I was a photographer on newspapers.
I mean, I dare say back then it was really a question of printing them out,
Well,
printing copies and sending them off.
That's it. You didn't know what you had either until you went back in to the darkroom. You might think that you got a good shot. You might have got that action shot. You might have got that ball in the photograph. I just dropped my camera, but that doesn't matter. They might have had that ball in the photograph, but you don't know until you get back into the darkroom.
Yeah. So maybe that's the biggest difference, is the fact that you can actually change and have a look at the shot you've already taken and already have a fair idea that you've got a good shot, whereas previously it wasn't until you got into the darkroom and did some development.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can delete. You can delete your photographs, do another one.
Yep.
Back in those days, that was it. But sometimes you might have to do a portrait of you for the paper. If it was important, we might do 2 rolls of film, 2 rolls of 36 to get a good shot.
Yep.
But with the digital, it'll have a look and it's gone. That'll do, and away you go.
Was the transition something that you were happy with, easy to look forward to? I mean, some people would be normally resistant of change in their chosen career. Is that something that was prominent? Was there resistance in the photographic community from moving towards the digital era?
Well, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so that stage when the changeover was coming along, I didn't want to change over, but you had to join the queue. So it was a little bit hard for me because I'm not real bright with a computerised stuff like that. I just don't know. It takes me a while to learn.
Yep.
I still don't know.
And yet you're using a digital camera?
Well, it's Yeah, I do, yeah. I just press a button. I don't do anything else. I just pick it up like this, turn it on, have a look, and I go, hang on, I broke it, didn't I? Hang on.
You did?
And just go like
It's
that.
still working, yeah.
There's a photo. Look at it. It's beautiful. Beautiful.
What's the most rewarding part about being a photographer? Not just being a professional and news photographer, but being a photographer. This is your passion, this is your life, this is what you do all the time. What keeps sending you out there every day with your camera in hand looking for more pictures?
It's very exciting. It is very, very exciting. It is something that's just inside you that you can hardly wait to do.
Yeah.
You can barely wait to go to work. I used to love going to work. I could not go home. I wanted to stay there all the time. I hated having holidays. I loved it so much. I really loved it. And that's what it's about. You love it. You got to love it.
Still love it now the way you did?
Love it. Not a real love it, but I love it.
We've got some of your photos, some examples of your work. Vast majority of your life you were working for News Limited, and part of that fact is the fact that News Limited, as your employer, owns the rights to the majority of your photos. But there's a sequence of photos that we wanted to have a look at and talk about this kidnapping that went down on the Gold Coast, and you were doing the rounds with your reporter following the story when all of a sudden you found yourself right smack dab in the middle of that. How'd that go down?
Yeah, that was quite amazing. There was a kidnapping.
When was this? Can you put me in the picture? When in time?
In the 80s.
Yep.
A young girl, Marissa Wong, was kidnapped from the family home, and there was a ransom for $1 million, but that was soon put down to about $500,000 and gradually down, and the child was missing for 2 or 3 days. So it was a pretty serious situation, and every cop was on duty, and of course every TV station and every news photographer and newspapers were there, all waiting to get the girl.
Because she was going to be released?
Well, they didn't know.
Okay.
They didn't know. But subsequently, they did release the girl. They weren't told, but they released the girl at Main Beach on the Gold Coast, and someone rang the police. The police picked up the young girl. So the hunt was on for the kidnapper.
Okay.
And you have never seen anything like it. It was pretty frightening to be following the cops' car with their sirens going and carrying on, and all the media in line, get out of my way. It's just quite amazing. But in the middle of all that, Scott McKenzie, the journo I work for, he said, I'm a bit sick and tired of this, Tommy. He said, let's turn off the street. I said, no, we can't do that. And of course we did. He said, we'll follow the dog squad. We'll go up this way. I said, oh, Scotty, we got to get back on the road, mate. It's all happening down there. So we went off the road.
Reporter's instinct kicking in, something big time. Yeah.
Well, sure. And next minute, the light went on in the dog squad car, and off it went. Scotty headed in the guts. We got round the corner, the car pulled up, we pulled up beside it. He's pulled his gun out and ordered this bloke out of the car, and he got out of the car with his hands up, and I'm just over there. I'm there, my little heart's thumping. I was sweating. I thought, oh, what's going on? I might get shot, because the gun was sort of aiming at me.
You were right in the middle of it, weren't you?
And so I've got to take these pictures. I'm trying to check the exposure, and I've just kept on shooting.
So you're still checking the light and the exposure and your timing and everything else while this is all going down right in front of you.
Well, it was funny weather because the sun was out, then the sun was gone.
Yeah.
You didn't know what was bloody happening.
Yeah.
So I knew I had it. I just knew it. So we had the gun and walked him around to the car, and by the time he got round the side of the car, another 3 or 4 coppers turned up, threw him to the ground, put their foot on him, held the gun at him, stripped him down, searched him, bundled him into the car, and I'm shooting all these photographs. I'm saying, how good's this? This is so easy, you know. I mean, wow, this is really good. And so they got him in the car, so I jumped in the front seat of the police car.
Yep.
To finish the series, you know.
Yep.
Not that I knew it was a series, but to finish the job.
Yep.
And the fella's head was down. I said to the coppers, I can't see his head. So they put it up, and I went, done the shots, and got out of the car.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely amazing. The adrenaline was running. The passion was still there, and I just wanted to keep going. I wanted to get away. So I could do
So
it
you
all
get some
over
more
again.
shots, yeah.
It was so beautiful. And went back to the dark room. We bought a carton of beer, went back to the dark room, and I was so careful. I put them through the soup, developed them, rolled them, dried them, looked up there, and I thought, my God, I've got them. I've got the shots.
Yep.
So they ended up in News Limited newspapers and page 1 and 3 and 4 or something like that. So it was really good. So it was entered into a competition to win an award for, which I won.
Mm-hmm.
It was a news photo of the year.
Yep.
News photograph of the year.
Yep.
So I won that, and I went to Sydney, and that was really nice.
Yep.
That was beautiful.
Big achievement to actually get a shot like that, to get an award like that. Does that help you in your career? Does that help you move up the chain or
No,
get
not at
paid
all.
better?
People do those things all the time.
Yeah.
Photographers do them all the time.
That's what
It's
you're there for, isn't it?
brilliant.
Yeah.
But there's your job. What's the next one? The next one you go probably to a fete, a school fete or something, you know,
Yeah.
and you get a little kid eating an ice cream.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know. Maybe the coppers will come there and stop the kid eating the ice cream. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different aspects of it. As I said in the intro, you could be shooting a sporting event or shooting a girl in a bikini on the beach. What aspect of it did you enjoy the most, being in news photography?
I would rather do a girl on the beach in a bikini than in a football game, I'll tell you that.
I think you answered the question.
Well,
I'm not going to leave that one alone.
I photographed hundreds of women. Sometimes I would photograph 2 or 3 a day
Yep.
at staggered times.
Yep.
And process them and send them to the various situations where they go to the Mirror or News Limited papers,
Yep.
Magazines, etc., etc. And might go to a football game every week or so, every 2 weeks,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Wasn't keen on footy though, you know. It's too easy. Photographing a girl was challenging. Had to get the right light, the right expression.
Notwithstanding the fact that it may well be winter,
Winter?
and you're standing on the beach on the broad water, and the model's got her feet in the water, trying
Well-
conditions to work with. It's never as easy as it looks once you see the finished product.
Well, it's sunny on the Gold Coast, see, so winter was the best time.
Yeah. Okay.
High beam.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed whatever. I just enjoyed taking everything, you know.
Yeah.
I love the challenge to go to a place where there, say a school fete, say a flower show or something. I used to love the challenge to go along and think, oh, what am I going to do here? But inside you're thinking, oh, I really want to get a good photo here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's no use coming and not trying to do a good job on something that you're sent to, you know.
And that's that aspect of it, regardless of what the job is getting the picture. Because just because you want to take a picture doesn't mean that it's going to be used, doesn't it? You've actually got to get the shot that fits the editor's idea of the way they want to portray that story,
That's
how they
right.
want to fill that space. It's not just, I got to pick and this is all I got, so you've got to use that one. You've actually got to come up with goods every single time, otherwise somebody else is going to get the gig.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the photographers are competitive,
Yeah.
and not every photograph you take gets published.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You might take 10 a week, you might get, oops, we don't take 10, we probably take 30 or 40 different shots, but you might only get half of that published.
Yep. So
And you go out and do it again, and it won't get published.
pressure comes on from the bosses in that respect. If you're not coming up with the shots that they're using, is that how the employment situation works?
No. They know you're doing your best.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have the gig, would you?
Well, no.
Yeah.
You know, although people do become the fate specialist,
Yeah.
you know, he's good at fates, they say, they send him to them all the time. Or he's good at garden shows, let's send him to the garden show
Yeah.
type thing. So, you know, the great thing about, you've done everything, tried everything, you photographed everything. What else can I do?
Mm.
You know, you just photograph everything, run out of things to photograph.
Mm-hmm.
So photograph yourselves. You know, it's just I can say in my career, it was probably one of the greatest things that I chose to do was to be a photographer. I didn't go to great heights, but I went to heights that other people would not go. Absolutely amazing.
Mm.
I wish I could do it again. I could start again, couldn't I?
No reason why you couldn't.
Get a haircut.
Have you a shave?
Yeah, have a shave, yeah.
I mean, starting back in the 60s, and for a lot of that time you were working for an organisation that ultimately became this big media behemoth, News Limited. What was it like going from those little papers up into that massive big empire? Was it a hard transition to become part of that giant machine?
I can tell you this. When I was a young fella on the Northern Star, at the end of my cadetship, and a little bit further on, I loved the Courier Mail. I loved the broadsheet, the big photographs they used, half a page sometimes. They used to use these huge photos, and I thought, I'm going to work. No, I thought I would like to work for that paper. So I kept on applying and asking and asking and asking. And it went on for so long, but I kept on asking. I kept on going. And after a year or a year and a half or something, they gave me a job on the Courier Mail. And to walk into a place like that is pretty daunting. I was so scared. I knew that I could do a photo, but I was so scared there. And they gave me the new set of cameras, Nikon cameras, and I'd never used one in my life. And I thought, how do you work this? And one of the blokes says, haven't you used one before? I said, one of the photographers said, haven't you used one before? And I said, no, not really, but all the cameras are the same, he said. So he gave me a few pointers, and then I was sent out on the job. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God. I pushed and pushed to do this work for the Courier Mail, and they sent me out in this job. I can't believe it. It was a picture of a famous swimmer. I can't remember his name. He wouldn't remember me either, just quietly. And I thought, well, and I put this wide-angle lens on. You know what a wide-angle lens is? Yeah. Gets in here and half the world. Yeah. Well, I got him on the blocks, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do here? So I photographed him diving towards the camera. So he's right in the camera, even though he's fair way away. And I got him to do it about 20 times. I said, are you sick of this? He said, oh, you know, do you have to do it this many times? I said, well, I'm learning. You know, I'm just from the bush. And it was a great photo. I said, thank you, Tommy. Wow. Yeah, it was good.
Turns out
well. But it doesn't get easier until you've been there and you fit in and you're liked and you can understand the ropes and understand people's personalities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you can achieve anything.
There's a fair aspect of the ability to work with people and know how to get people to be willing to, I guess, expose themselves to you in order to take direction from you in order for you to be able to get the shot. Sometimes the two don't necessarily work together. It's a big aspect of it, isn't it? It
is a big aspect, yeah. One of my specialties, people. You'll be lucky to see a photograph at my place of a building or a scene. Yep. I work with people all my life, and I was well known, I must say, and proud of it, to get anyone, no matter who they are, famous or whatever, to do virtually anything I wanted them to do by chatting with them, sharing what they believe in the way of a photograph, and gradually working at them, niggling at them to get them to stand on their head, to put an ice cream on the head, more or less, you know, within reason. I could get them to do anything, and I have photographs to prove it. Anything at all. It was just, I could talk them into it.
Sounds like a dream job. What ultimately caused you to end your employment at News Limited?
Well, I was sacked, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, which is a pity, but I was sacked, but I won't talk about it at this stage.
Okay.
That hurt me a lot.
I'll bet.
After being so faithful to them for so many years, unblemished record, never swore. I did a bit, but...
So did everybody else.
Something happened and it was out of my control, and I was put off. and that sort of really, really hurt me. But they deserted me in an hour of need, I suppose you could say. And they never spoke about it, and I was just pushed aside.
It's very hard when you ultimately realise that you're really just a commodity and not much else.
After all those years, yeah.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you. Nice of you to drop in.
And yet, I mean, that incredible camaraderie that exists amongst photographers still exists to these days. And you've got hundreds of photographer friends, and
it's mighty.
yeah,
I got so many friends, so many beautiful friends, so many all photographers, and a lot of other people, but so many great friends, photographers, and they were all behind me too. But we're all still mates, so it doesn't make any difference to anyone, does it?
Yep. Okay.
Beautiful.
After the break, we'll travel further back into Tommy's life to his childhood at an Anglican church-run orphanage in northern New South Wales.